Hey, what's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. Just got back from the Heat's house. Miami Heat are heading back to the playoffs. And it was such an interesting experience at the game today. I got to say, it was a very, very strange atmosphere. Walked into that place today, and it just had like this very ominous feeling. Like everybody was down. Hey, is this going to be the last time we see each other? Hey, is this, it just had that. I mean, I've been to a couple of games where the Heat have been up against it before, and it just didn't feel good. I was at, I'm trying to think of like the ones where it just felt really bad, and it just kind of had that feeling of it. Like that elimination was near. The end might be near. A lot of people didn't have faith. And I don't know if it was just you didn't have faith. I don't know what it was. I didn't know if it was the faith. I don't know if it was a lack of faith. I don't know if it was a readiness for it to end because of the embarrassment in the last game. I don't know if it's just sheer exhaustion. But you just walked in there and just did not feel like, from the people around the building, it just didn't feel like it had good vibes. I'm not talking about Heat officials. I'm talking about, people who work there, media guys, all that type of stuff. And I go on to the pregame with my guy Solana, and I'm just I'm letting him know. I'm like, hey man, it would be so this team this year to be when everybody thinks they're down and out. That is when they typically shine. And every time you think you have them figured out and you think you have them pinned, they usually will do the opposite thing. It's been one of the frustrating things about them is because they'll flash brilliance when you least expect it, and then when you think they have everything figured out is normally when they will completely disappoint you. And so this game comes up today against Chicago, and you just get this incredible start from Max Strus. He was unbelievable. The dude could not freaking miss. And, things were looking, pretty fat and sassy there early on in the first quarter. But, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is going to be a 3-point game. It's going to happen. And sure enough, the game does get tight again. And DeMar DeRozan, he starts getting his thing and really was really just an impressive back and forth. I mean, Miami ends up going into the half at up 5. And you're feeling okay. Like things are going fine, but you just really, it was close. And you do look up at the score and you're like, oh man, they have 49 points. Max Strus had 23. He's 6 of 8 from downtown. You can't imagine he can top that in the second half. Can he keep this up? And you just needed a little bit more offensively from everybody. Jimmy, he was at single digits. I think Jimmy had 9 points. Bam at 4. Tyler hadn't really gotten going. It just, to be fair, just did not. And we probably knew this going in. It did not have this grand offensive affair to it, and that would stay kind of the theme throughout. And Miami was in pretty much a dogfight right out of the gate. In that third quarter, I would say the Bulls had control of it for the most part. They were really starting to take the reins. You had Andre Drummond came in. He was kind of being a deterrent against Miami. Caruso had it going tonight. And then really DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine started feeling like they were getting in comfort zones. And you're like, man, that's kind of your worst case scenario. You don't want those guys starting to feel in those areas. And DeRozan really was starting to be a problem. And, even through the third quarter, the only real positive sign was Jimmy was starting to crank it up offensively. And you could kind of see that look in his eye, like, okay, he's going to start getting this going. The one thing that was noticeable, because Bam really never offensively got it going, but the energy that he was bringing to the table tonight was night and day from the Atlanta game. Bam had 17 rebounds tonight. He was a defensive anchor. The communication was much, much better today, as you can see by the score, and obviously how Miami was able to shut things down and really shut the water off on the Chicago Bulls late in this game. But Bam, it was an important night for him, because I think for him, he had the comments after the game where he was discussing getting the ball. And I think everybody, and I'm sure he did too, probably realized afterwards, like, hey, do you really feel like you lost that game because you didn't get the ball more? Like, quite physically, yes, you didn't get the ball more by rebounding. I'm saying, like, offensively, like, they weren't calling plays for you. I think in his honest moments and probably looking at the film, he knew. And, Bam is such a fascinating guy, man. I really, really, I feel like he gets a ton of unwarranted shit from the fan base. I get some of the frustration because, to a degree, you hear these things like no ceiling and, what they think he's capable of, and we can see what he's like in transition, and we can see how he can go defend the best guys in the league, and we can see that from time to time he'll have those takeovers, but, he's also put in this position, and really has been since he's come here, to be this really unique defender, this really unique facilitator, this guy who screens shooters open all over the time, all over the place for guys. And then on top of it is trying to find his offensive game. And once you find that, then we need you to improve your free throw shooting, and we need you to improve your mid-range shooting. And by the way, how come you're not shooting threes yet, you bum? Like, that's the reaction it all gets. And I thought for tonight to have this impact without having the buckets. Well, Jimmy Butler spoke to it after the game, and I thought that was a nice nod from Jimmy to give these words about Bam.
Honestly, I probably shouldn't have been yelling like that, because I was dead ass tired, and I'm not gonna lie to you. But I think that's what my team needed me to do: find a way, along with Bam. And the reason I really love Bam tonight is because, even though you don't make shots, you can affect the game in so many different ways. And that right there is the definition of a star player, a superstar, all-star, whatever you want to put onto it. But, 17 rebounds. He had one block, but it was the best defensive player of the entire game. And when you lock in on a defensive end like that, that's the part that gets everybody excited, gets everybody doing the right thing. So, and I hope he makes every shot come Sunday. But if he doesn't, and he has another game like this, it's going to be the reason that we win.
So Miami ends up going on this incredible run. They keep Chicago to like 1 point in the last 3 minutes. Jimmy Butler getting the and ones, finding Max Strus. Max Strus hits a couple more big threes. He had a three, by the way. I can't believe this. Max Strus had another three wiped off the board by the back of his heel, which, something's got to be done. I mean, there's just something a little bit too fishy. I don't know what the hell happened there with Max Strus getting another three-pointer wiped off the board when he was the hottest shooter on the planet tonight. And as Jimmy Butler said, made himself a whole lot of money.
I mean, Max started off hot, and it stayed that way. But the work that he puts in, it shows. It really does. He tries on every single possession, tries to do the right thing on offense, try to do the right coverage on defense, and we love him for that. We want him to continually be successful. But me, honestly speaking, I think Max made himself a lot of money tonight.
So Miami ends up on top. They beat the Chicago Bulls. They have to settle for the 8th seed, but they are in the playoffs. They are in the playoffs, and they will take on their old friends, the Chicago Bulls. You knew it was going to be a rivalry matchup, no matter who you took on in the Boston Celtics or the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, there's a ton of storylines here, and I do feel like it's funny. Like, if this was, a 3-6, if this was even a 2-7, I feel like it has a little bit more juice. Now everybody's kind of looking at the Heat like they're going to get steamrolled by the Milwaukee Bucks. I want it to be known, I am going to give my official pick in the next video that I do, which I will release sometime on Saturday. I know this is going to technically come out Saturday. I will release the official pick video later in the day, probably sometime in the middle of the afternoon, so you guys can have that. I just kind of want to focus on the Heat just getting here, and we'll get into all that. But as far as them making the playoffs, as I said in the last previous videos, I'm happy that they got here. I am happy that they are in the postseason. I know that there was a contingent of fans who wanted to play for lottery balls, that they were just completely fed up. I don't say, I don't think your frustration is unwarranted. It's just me as a fan. I don't root for that. I don't root for, unless my team is completely awful and there's no point. Like, I want my team to make the playoffs. And sometimes it's positive, like, the year that Middleton sunk the Heat and kept them out of the playoffs. Sometimes there are years where it benefits you. But I don't think this is one of those years because, like, you got like a fraction of a chance to get Wembanyama. You're not getting Wembanyama. The draft is, it's an interesting. It's not like they're gonna go and rely on whatever rookie they bring in anyway. Look at Nikola Jovic this year. You just don't know. It's a crapshoot. Sometimes they're Tyler Hero, sometimes they're Shabazz Napier. You don't know. And I think everybody is probably of the opinion they're just going to use it as an asset anyway. So 14, 15, 16, what the hell's the difference? And I can tell you, I think this is my favorite part of the game tonight. I'll give you guys something that I saw that I thought was really, really cool. And I think speaks to this organization. There were a couple of things that I thought were really cool. And I think it's why a lot of Heat fans do dig this team and do ride with the whole culture stuff, even though, some people roll their eyes at it and they get tired of it and they're nauseated by the Heat culture stuff and all that. But there is a purity to it. There is a beautiful thing with the franchise that they do go for that stuff when, others go a different route. Others go the route of, the Utah Jazz, and they aren't satisfied being a 1 seed or getting to the second round and want to clear the decks and want to be a clean slate, or Oklahoma City. They've been chasing ping pong balls ever since their superstars left town. But it was interesting tonight. I saw Pat Riley, who kind of sits in this like little uprising that's off to one of the tunnels, and he usually sits with Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon, Alonzo Mourning is usually there. In the first half today, Ron Rothstein was there with him, which was, that was goosies. Love me some Ron. But sitting next to Pat today was his wife, Chris Riley, who, by the way, I may say this, she is a ride or die supporter. Like, every bucket, everything she is into, she is clapping, she is like every single play. Like, just such a basketball lifer to be riding with the Godfather and, being one of the backbones of that family for that many years. But like, to think about how much basketball that woman's probably watched, and this is the play-in game and she's still into it like that. And you could honestly just tell their relationship, how strong it was. I don't know how many people, like, if you just see a couple that's been together for a while and you just see that love and support that's there through the angst of whatever your loved one is going through. And there comes a moment in that fourth quarter where Pat knows they're going to make the playoffs, that he knows that they're going to be in. They're not going to have this shame of going from 1 seed to out. And you can kind of just see relief go over him. I don't know what was in their conversations. Hell, I was a long ways away, but I could definitely see, like, her comforting her husband, like, hey, all right, we're in. Like, there's this relief. And then Eric Spoelstra comes in and he starts his press conference like this.
Okay. I'll start with this. Our team obviously has not been perfect this year. But I do know one thing about the men in that locker room the last 48 hours. I know how categorically, unequivocally, how badly and desperately our group wanted to get into this damn thing and get into the playoffs to have an opportunity to compete for a title. And that's the part that I love about this group. Even when there's some frustrating times during the season, I know how badly the guys want to win.
So you can just tell it still matters to this organization. People may think it's stupid, and people may think that, it should always be punting or kicking the can or only go into the fight if you feel like you really have a chance, which nobody mainstream-wise is going to think that they do. And look, I get it. I'm not one of these, you know me. I will have rabbit ears for anything. You still don't know my pick, but I have rabbit ears. I understand why no one is going to pick the Heat. Milwaukee is a recent champion, They have been the 1 seed. They seem like they have only made their team deeper. They are getting healthier. Hell, they have a lot of the great Heat role players that the Heat had on their finals run. So I understand it. But even if they do get smoked, which you don't have my pick yet, even if they do get smoked, it isn't being bounced. It isn't not making the playoffs. It isn't just rolling over and taking ping pong balls. They still found a way in and now get to compete for a championship and try. And that means something to them. And I like that about them. There's just a respect that I have for that in the organization, that if there's fight left, they try. And they haven't been a team that tanks. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it won't work out for them. Maybe, maybe it would have been better to go for ping balls. I doubt it. I don't think so. But I like the fact that they have this philosophy of trying to go win and trying to compete, and that getting there means something. Even with them getting to within a shot of the finals, even them just being in the finals a couple of years ago. The fact that they got there today, and they didn't have to wear the shame of not being in the postseason, it means something for them to be in there. It means still something to the people at the top of the organization, the guy who is a established, soon to, future Hall of Fame coach, to Jimmy Butler, to Bam Adebayo, to Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, been in the league, won a championship. Kyle Lowry's just like, I'm happy we're just in the playoffs. I'm happy.
I'm just happy to be, playing in the playoffs. Honestly, these last 2 games were, just to get in the playoffs. But, when you get in the playoffs, anything's possible. Anything can happen. I think we're in a situation where we can go out there and just play free and play loose like we have been all year. And, got to go down there, tie your shoes up, lace them up, and go in the hardwood.
You like the quick turnaround?
Hell no, but we have no choice right now.
Coach mentioned just how much you guys desired just to get into the dance. Like, what was the attitude like around the team these last couple days after the
It was rest, recover, loose, and just go find a way to win the basketball game. And I think we all kind of just wanted to get into the playoffs, just get in there and be loose, but don't be too tight, don't be too loose. But we were just ready to go and play.
This means something to them, and so I'm excited. I'm excited for this upcoming Bucks series. I will do another video on that series and what this series will mean and give my official pick for that. But as for this one, I am just happy and glad that the Miami Heat are going into the playoffs.